Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Like we say on this show, it all depends the time zone from where you are watching as. Welcome to The Leader, courtesy of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya and Catholic. Today, we have two wonderful ladies, and there is no better time and season such as now because we are going to discuss the whole subject of faith and environment stewardship. With me in the studio, my extreme right, my very good friend, Madam Eunice Mwongera. Karibu sana. Your title is one that can be intimidating. Climate Action. Hey. Wow. When I grow up, I want to be like you. Asante sana. And of course, next to us is the accountant. But this time, we will see where accounts interfaces with climate, with faith. Grace Njenga, accountant at Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. Karibu sana. All right, so in the time that we have, let's just go back to the very beginning.
Yes.
Faith and environment. Where does it start?
So Edmund, in Genesis 2:15, when God created the heavens and the earth, he actually created what we are calling the environment. Because it says he went ahead to fill it with vegetation, with waters, with the seas, with the rivers, and all that we occupy. And so then he called man to be a steward of this environment, to till it, work it, and be a steward. And so it is not even our human ingenuity. It is actually God's own thought process that we should not only steward it, but work at it. So I think we live in a time where things have evolved. There have been many epochs in life. And I think the current epoch of revolution, where industrialization has really had an impact on the environment, is what has left us where we are. And so the core then is to look at what man has done with the creation and be part to rejuvenating it and restoring it to the original, if we can, or see a semblance of the original, because it said that the temperatures at almost 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees, and the hotter it gets, then we are getting to a melting point. So in future generations, if we don't do something now, then we are at a danger. Yeah.
And indeed, future generations, and we have one who is transitioning to the future generation in the present, Grace.
Yes.
As a young lady, why should you care about the environment?
As a young person, myself, just to mention, I was raised in Kiambu County.
Yes.
So my mom is a farmer. We did dairy farming, and my grandparents did coffee and tea growing. And so sometimes when I'm visiting my mom at home, it saddens me to see that the tea and coffee plantations, which used to be a very good cash crop, and we export, they are no longer there, and very big, beautiful, big buildings are being
Concrete jungle.
concrete jungle. And I get concerned and I see, oh my God, in future generations, we are going to have very beautiful houses, but a hungry nation. And so it really saddens me, and it just causes me and pushes me to be proactive, to be a climate action advocate. Otherwise, we are going to be a hungry nation, a hungry continent, living in beautiful houses, but very hungry.
It's interesting you say that, because then what are you doing about it?
What am I doing about it?
Yes.
So this is where the money and the passion on climate action comes in. So by God's grace, just a few months ago, I had the opportunity to speak at the Human Rights Council and so the Human Rights Council is an assembly of all the world nations, and the nations can call out on each other, but we also have the non-governmental organizations and private institutions registered under the United Nations under the economic and social status. And our umbrella body, the World Evangelical Alliance, has an ECOSOC status with the United Nations. So this year, I was able to present a statement with all those nations present and calling on the wealthier nations to fund, the poorer countries in terms of climate funding, the climate action projects, and to just collaborate. Because you realize that most of these wealthier nations, they contribute to the largest carbon emissions. And we all get to suffer.
We suffer.
We all get to suffer. So why don't we then put our efforts together and address this issue? They have money, give us the money. We sort out the climate change issues. Yeah.
And Madam Eunice,
Yes.
at EWA, very recent, we had the launch of a very ambitious project to plant millions of trees. Is it feasible? How are you doing about it?
Yes, Edmund. So, number one, let me say we at EWA are excited that the government has called on the Kenyans, the population, the corporates, the employees, and anybody else to actually turn out on the 13th to plant trees. I am told, I'm sure they will give us more information, but I'm told that corporates are adapting forests so that then we have different partners in this effort. So EWA then intends to plug into this government initiative. So what we did on the 2nd is to launch the 10 million planting of trees by EWA. EWA is the Evangelical Women Alliance, which is a commission of EAK. And countrywide, it is recorded that we are about 12 million or 15 million evangelicals. And about 6 million of those are women. And so when the Commission on Women takes stand to do something like that, it is really bound to succeed because the women then will come to the forefront. So we have launched it on the 2nd. And the second thing that is going to happen now is that we are asking the ladies to plug in and get seedlings as they are being issued by the government. I'm told there are enough places, including the Kenya Forest Services centers. They're in the prison, there are nurseries there, they are at the army places, army armed forces, there are nurseries there. So people should actually go out of their way to plant. Somebody calculated and said the 15 billion is not difficult. In fact, I think it's the CS herself who said if we planted, is it 200 per person?
Yeah.
We will have achieved our effort. So we are calling on the EWA women and the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya Women plus the Evangelical members themselves to get out there and plant the trees.
And then they'll get the advice of which trees do best in which areas and how to nurture them, how to take care of them.
Yes. Yes. So what is rolled out by the government is that they have sort of an extension service that maps out which species are good for which area. And they have trained most of these nursery owners actually. So nursery owners are also propagating trees in the relevant places for the relevant conditions. So when, for instance, I called the prisons in Meru, and I asked for them. The guy told me, come for 1,000 seedlings. And if you're planting this region, this is where you plant these ones. And so they're actually available. All we need to do is take the next bold step, a faith step, to go and get these seedlings and do what needs to be done. I think it will be a service to the coming generation if we all manage to do this, particularly achieve what the government has in mind on the 13th, that as many of us come out. Yes.
And I can emphasize that with the network that you have, with the interests being seeded, as it were.
Yes.
And then, of course, the follow-up So that you don't just plant and be disconnected, but you actually then have a relationship. Because what I see here and suggest is that the whole effort, the whole initiative of reforestation in planting then behooves a relationship. And faith, again, is one that you can't tick a box. Faith requires a relationship. What would be a comment on that?
Yes, Edmund. So it's, I think tree planting is an activity. Tree growing is the nexus of this. In the past, we used to plant in such a day, we would plant trees on the roadside. We would all get to Gong Forest and try and plant trees. And then in months to come, they are dry because there's nobody nurturing it. So just like you have said about faith, tree is grown, it's nurtured, it's taken care of, it's watered, it's looked after. And so the EWA model desires that we grow, we farm our trees, either fruit trees or these other species, in our compounds. This is the members' compounds, the church compounds, the school compounds, institution compounds like hospitals. Most of the our members have even hospitals, so that then we grow with them. It is envisaged that there will be pulpit call, a clarion call from the pulpit, where some of these seedlings are actually brought to the compound on a Sunday, and members are asked then to pick them as they go home. And if they pick avocado trees as they go home, and they go and plant, I mean, the joy is theirs to plant and nurture and see it to fruition. And the livelihood is restored in terms of the fact that there will be food, and then there is climate restoration. So it's a beautiful concept. We are an agrarian community generally. And for women, I think it's even more exciting because we are the most affected. We are the ones who interact with the soil more than the male folk. And so when this climate change effect come, we are the most affected. And so it behooves, I think, the woman to just get out of their comfort zone and get to champion the planting, the growing of these both fruit trees and other species.
And Grace, if I may just turn to you, how would you encourage the community to take it up as opposed to executing it because they have been told, so that it becomes second nature to them in terms of what is in it for them? I think Madam Eunice alluded to the same, so that as they as the community evolves, how do you nurture community engagement?
I think number one, there is the place of education, but also as evangelicals coming from the evangelical space, I is a very rich area for discipleship, and reminding people about our responsibility first from God to take care of His creation, and what will happen if we don't take care of His creation. And that's why we are seeing some of the things happening in our country and even in the world, the floods, famine, all these are effects of sin and our negligence of not taking care of God's creation. And so I think my call will be, we are not going to grow or plant trees because the government says so, but it is because God has given us a responsibility. And growing and taking care of God's creation will bring glory to God. So God will be glorified in all of these things, and it will bring healing in our land. So it's sad when we see people stuck in floods, cars getting stuck. It's very sad to see the things happening, but also, even though many of the times we want to blame the government, we also have a responsibility we also have a responsibility. And so it is the responsibility of every Kenyan on Monday to show up and grow at least one tree. Yes. Yeah.
Just to add on,
Yes.
Mudibo, there is also an incentive
Yes.
on carbon credit payment. So I'm sure it's getting people are getting now aware that the industrialized countries that have emitted and caused this kind of disaster have now agreed to actually sort of compensate those who can then grow trees, because then they emit the oxygen, they consume the carbon dioxide from the air. And so carbon credit is an incentive by itself. In Meru, where I come from, there is a program called TIST. TIST actually registers our trees as we plant them, our crops as we plant them. They even register some of them, the flowers type.
Yes.
And so what farmers and Meru people have done, at least the groups that I work with, is that we have logged into a system where then our planting is recognized and registered. And after 6 months, they'll come and look at what we have planted, and then we begin to earn credit out of them.
So able to track.
Yes.
Wow.
They are able to track, because, I mean, the money is seated out there.
Yes.
So they have a system that then tracks how many trees are planted. So that has become such an incentive. In fact, I have a big group in Kithirone that is now planting, like this particular time. Of course, we are going to combine with the EWA strategy, and they will be planting over 3,000 trees that day. And they are all registered in the TIST program. So that becomes an incentive that we are actually being compensated for greening the earth. As they have degreened, then they are compensating us. And that should be good incentive for us, yes.
And I'm thinking it works especially well in the outskirts. What about in the urban centers? What options do we have?
So maybe just to mention before Eunice
Yes.
speaks, before I was able to join the evangelical space, I used to work in a slum called Maroroi, and I've worked a lot in the slums. And so I think the challenge that people will speak about slum is we don't have the space or what. But then, apart just from growing trees, there is a culture called urban farming, where you can even farm your sukuma wiki in a sack of soil, and we don't have an excuse. It's possible to contribute to this initiative with the little spaces we have, Yeah, maybe you need
No, it's true.
It's
True, really, because if I look at this compound, there is space to plant about 100 trees.
Yes.
Along the edge, I know Nairobi Baptist, where I worship, we planted trees during the era of Geshinga. That time, planting of trees was not quite the thing. But I remember we were doing the landscaping, and I came with what they call the Thika palms. And now I look at them and I'm very excited because they have become shades where people come and park under the cars.
Yes.
So there are compounds, there are space in our homes. In most urban places, you will not lack a space where you plant a fruit tree, if not anything else. A mango, an avocado. If it's a cold place, you plant the avocado. If it's a warmer place, you plant then the mango or these other tree species. So what we are calling, and the Clarion Call, is that nobody actually has an excuse not to plant their portion of the tree to be part of the 15 billion. Whether you live in the slums, whether you live in a big compound, whether you live in the rural areas, everybody has a responsibility. And we are championing that our evangelical members should be counted. When the 15 billion trees are being counted, May the Lord find us faithful.
Yes.
That we have become
Yes.
part of His stewardship. Yes.
If we were to step up briefly and look at the global perspective, because we don't exist as an island unto ourselves, even as a nation, because we know what happens in one part of the world affects another part, including, of course, their own. What are some of the lessons or experiences that were shared? I mean, even when you are representing us very well in Switzerland.
Okay. When you travel, you get to see a lot. And for example, a country like Switzerland, you are able to access clean water from any tap in the streets, contrarily to Nairobi.
We did when we were young.
When you were young.
You were not around
And
then.
when Nairobi was Nairobi, it's the
Yeah.
land, the city of cool water.
Yes.
But now you can see how our behaviors have affected and have transitioned us to a place where, cholera is, all these diseases. And what I see, for example, like a country like, it's very clean, cool air. They have the trees. It's possible to sit under a shade in the town center. I was in Geneva, and I think we have so much to learn. When I also visited Italy sometime, and I noticed some disciplines, including small things like waste management, that we are able to sort out our waste, do recycling, because otherwise these are some of the things that contribute to the amount of the carbon emission. And just a lot of wastage of resources. And for example, our organic wastes, they are able to be recycled, taken back to the farm. If it's plastics, they are able to be remodeled. And there is just so much we can learn from the international. I think Sweden imports garbage. There was an article, they have run out of garbage in their country.
So we can export from Kenya garbage.
So they are actually looking for countries they can buy garbage from them because they have so much use from them. And so maybe if, for the government and NGOs, we need to benchmark with our foreign nations and see which are some of the best practices we can implement here in our country. I know the Evangelical Alliance, through the Women Commission, we are working towards sustainability of this project, and also even the issue of waste management definitely will affect climate. And so we see how do we take the initiative to train our people, and the number of our members actually contributes to a biggest percentage of the Kenyan citizens. So it's actually really possible. EAK and EWA, we are best positioned to roll out some of these projects in our country. Yeah.
Yeah. In addition, Mudibo, because this is a global menace, it's no longer the developed and the developing. The developed have their contribution, which is now being quantified as negative, because after industrialization, the emission has reached now to the global south. We have our potential because we are the most agricultural land owners that is left not concrete-sized. And so the equation or the debate now is, how do we support they who have the land to actually green the earth, so that then as we compensate, we are getting the greening here. And so there are many, many international networks. We are part of those networks. There is global networks on climate change. There is 350. There is partnerships in justice for environment. I mean, they are all there. One of I think the one that is really touching us is that since we are an agrarian community, then what we are calling climate adaptation and climate mitigation gels or inbuilt into our climate, smart climate agriculture, so that we are farming, not the traditional way, but we are employing skills and abilities on climate smart agriculture. So we are not doing the normal farming without thinking about what is the effect on, say, the spraying of the chemicals on the fertilizer. That's why there is a call to go to organic farming, for instance, so that you reduce the chemicals and the waste that goes into there. There is a call to where you plant, to how you rear your livestock, even in the arid and semi-arid. So all those things are packaged in what they call the climate, the smart agriculture. So that since we are an agrarian community, and this is what we do, then how do we train our farmers to be part of adapting to the new technologies that will actually help us to curb the climate change problems?
How do we protect ourselves from dumping? Because we are playing catch up in matters technology, and you find that we in the third world may fall prey to dumping, even when you don't quite realize it, because the West is ridding itself of what it doesn't need, which to us may look all glittery and shiny and attractive, only to realize down the road we were the dumping grounds.
Yeah, so of course one of the bright government policy is the anti-plastic usage. I think that stands out for Kenya, that there is no manufacturing. So then the way we used to come from out of the country with all those paper bags,
Yeah.
that has been curtailed, and it's a good thing. The second thing, I think there is a policy on things that are coming in as well. The other day, I think we were being unpacked at the airport, looking at what it is that you are packed in your perfume. And you have actually to dispose those papers before you enter. So it's not just the big ones, but even the small ones. We are hopeful that issues of bringing the second hands and so on will be a thing of the past, so that we are able to manufacture our own, so that we don't become a dumping for some of these things. I believe in years to come, I think that is how we will uplift our dignity as a people, so that we are able to do things the way the Western world, copy the best practices, as she said, and not take the ones that are negative to our growth as a country. Yeah.
If any of you has been to Rwanda,
A clean city.
Travel. As you come in, you will leave all your plastics and papers and other things out, but not in.
Yeah.
Other examples that we can bring out?
I think it starts from home. Even as God, in the space you are. You see, when God created Adam and Eve, the first and most crucial place of discipleship is in the family unit first, before even we transfer it to the church, to the teachers and the pastors. So just last week, I visited my mom. And I noticed I was having a small paper. I think we had eaten a hot dog with my nephews. And then I said, I will go and dump it at home. But then I realized, so there is this cycle that my mom has created. Yeah, like no waste, zero, I don't know how to call it. Everything is used and reused, so there is no dump in the home, because she has a garden there. She's growing some very nice sukuma wiki and managu. Sometimes she's maybe she will use the plastics to light a fire or something. So you find there is zero waste and no dumping. And so I find myself actually in my house, I have a certain cupboard. I keep all my plastics, and I'm saying I will take these ones to this factory, because I feel, no, if I just dump all of these things in a trolley, I don't know exactly what they are going to do with them. And so I'm contributing to the number of waste. So I think from our families, our churches, just all the social units we have, we can just develop a waste management culture. For example, here in Sitam, we can say this is the can for putting on the waste plastics. We put the glasses here. We segregate our waste, and then it's easier to reuse it. Otherwise, it's hard. It's just hard sometimes to sort out these things. We have to maybe take our waste plastic to China for it to be remodeled. Then we need the plastic bag, so we use money. So I think if we start those cultures from our families, our churches, we are going to reduce the amount of waste we are having in our country.
And I was thinking some of these habits and disciplines would be introduced in schools so that children grow knowing about issues on environmental caring, creation care, how to tender and how to dispose of their waste and so on, so that then as they graduate, this is a discipline that they have grown with. As they come to the homes, they meet a disciplined mom like our mom, and then the habit continues. Like you said, we lived in days when Nairobi was more cleaner than this. Then it became so cluttered. I'm glad at least it's now changing a little bit, but yes, there's a lot to be done.
Yeah, I mean, I recall when, if you're thirsty, the places you just go and press, the water sprinkles, you drink and you go.
Exactly.
You didn't have to think, is it safe?
Not anymore. One of the things that sickens me is when I see somebody throwing garbage through the car window. I mean, I just feel like I wish I had a whistle to blow and tell the person, stop, so that we can have a conversation, because it's a mental, it's a mindset. People have to change some of these habits and pick the habits that will make us a better people, all of us, and good stewards of God's creation here.
Indeed, and then, of course, like you say, the right policies, adherence to the same, and recognizing where what is right has been done, and equally what is wrong, calling it out. I mean, if you could travel all the way to Switzerland to call out other nations, you can call out your neighbor if he's not doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think we still have a long way to go. Just this week, we had the opportunity to visit Mukuru. I think it's a Mukuru Kwajenga or Kwaruben.
Yes.
And I really cried because these people, it has rained, their sewers are not working, the water is flooded on the road. They don't have a sustainable system for managing human waste. So the human waste is in that water. They're using that water to wash their clothes, and children are playing in that water. So I asked one of the members of the community, and so where do you get clean water? They told me they buy. These people live in small single rooms of iron sheets. You would imagine this is someone who is living in less than $1 a day. So when you have that 100 or 500 shillings, you wonder, do I buy unga? Is it clean water for drinking? That is a place where you would really struggle when you're thirsty, even though it is still here in Nairobi. And I really cried and I said, oh my God, there is a governor here, there is an MP, there is an MCA, and there is nothing has been done to sort out this. It was very, very sad. And you can see organizations really coming to try and bring some solutions about the human waste, because the human waste management, if you don't have a system, it's really bad. The smell and the health repercussions. You can imagine even washing a fruit to eat. You don't have clean water to do that. So I think the issue about clean water, I think it's an SDG.
It is.
Yeah, sustainable cities, clean water. We still have a long way to go. And even as we were calling out our other governments to support us, I think even our we need to be faithful, to support our people, to make sure that our people have, this clean water and our cities are sustainable. And otherwise, you see, these people get sick, they're not able to access good medical care. So it's really saddening. And I think my prayer will be that, we will all take that collective responsibility, but also our leaders, we really take that initiative and be responsible for that.
And I think, Mudibo, this is where a call for partnerships and collaborators and other networks, the big piece, the small piece of partnerships should come on board, because there is no world that lives with some mirage of an inequality that is, this kind of description, where basic things, food, water, health, housing, are not sorted. If those are not sorted in one corner of the city, then there will become a problem in that corner that is sorted. These are our own relatives, friends, people that we work with. This is where, we draw some of these services. And so it behooves, I think, everybody then to think holistically over some of these problems. The stewardship here is not just the planting and growing of the trees, but it's also making sure that people have food, basic needs, people have houses, people have health, so that they can then think of the greening of the earth.
Accountability, sustainability, the nexus, because every so often, as a country, we go through cycles, and we're very proud, and we thank God that we've been faithful in holding elections every 5 or so years. There's the phase where all these promises are being made. And then there's the homecoming, because you've been elected to office. And then we start delivering. Before we settle, we plan for the next. And we have all these excuses. How do we hold ourselves and our leaders accountable? Because I'm sure, these manifestos that have been flying up and about before elections, cost of living, environment must have been. How then do you encourage that we hold ourselves and our leaders accountable for the good of all?
I think maybe before Eunice answers, I think, just like in many organizations, when you give someone a job, because we are the bosses in Kenya, we are the ones who give these people jobs. So I think Kenyans, as the employers, they need to be given the privilege of doing performance, what are they called?
Appraisals.
Performance appraisals. Because if you promised this within this timeline, and you're not delivering, what are you doing in office? You're just using government resources, our taxes, So I wish our constitution was able to give that provision just for the purposes of development of our country and accessibility of some of these resources, because I was very disappointed to imagine there is someone who cannot get a cup of clean water, because there is a government there, you see. So I think I wish our constitution was able to give Kenyans that provision within this timeline. Is if this person is delivering the same thing, Mudibo, as an employer, you've been given 1-year contract. If you've not met the deliverables, your contract is not renewed.
It's okay. They'll say, bring someone else who will do it.
Yeah. So we also want people who will do their jobs, not just taking foreign trips, coming back, and we are tired of empty promises. Yeah,
that's true. Accountability. Then we need to get angry enough. Angry enough to participate in forums, in human rights forums, in forums like this where we create awareness. Like our story now should actually be
amplified out.
Yes, so that Governor Sakaja visits that place when it's raining now. We are celebrating the rains. But there are people who are almost living, in very deplorable situations. So I think communication and having forums like this, that means then media also should be part of the partnership in bringing and blowing out these things. But also I'm thinking since we are all connected to a leader, either the MCA at the grassroots, if not, the next, I think that is the lowest, then it behooves actually the citizens to keep bringing these issues to their leaders. If the MCA doesn't sort out, there is an MP who also, one can reach, then we keep cascading this information upwards. We will say that, from yesterday's State of Nation, there was quite some milestones that you can see that the government seems to have made, but there remains to be so much, so that for us even to feel the effect, there's so much. And for me, I think the crucial thing is if we address the nitty-gritties, the very basic ones, the very basic ones.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true, we are doing the housing, but if somebody is dying because they can't get, clean water and food for today, they'll not live to occupy that
house in 10 years.
Yes, so
Yes.
just sorting out and knowing there are these nitty-gritties of these, the so-called, all of us now are ASRAs, the ASRAs population. If we can sort those problems, and it's not only in the slums, you go to the rural areas, it's the same.
Yeah.
So it stands that 60 years of Kenya's independence, we have this kind of situations that are really disheartening, where food, basic things are mirage for so many Kenyans. Yeah.
If my people who are called by my name,
To humble themselves.
the more things change, the more they remain the
I
same.
know.
And now if we default to the good book as we wind up,
Yes.
what would you say is a call to action to the self, to the person, to the community, to the nation, to the world, from where you are?
Yeah, so Mike, I love the text that says, what does God require of us? A contrite and an humble heart is what the Lord requires. So whether one is a leader, whether one is a citizen, God has a requirement according on us. Whether even one believes or not, it is there. God expects us to respond to his call. One, to be mindful of another and to show love, to show patience with another, to show, the leadership character of every one of us, to show it to another by embracing them. Two, to be people of integrity, even as we live, to practice what we say and to be seen to pass on this to the next generation. Number three, to develop others. Today I'm very excited that we came with Grace.
Yes.
Last time we were here, we told you that we are mentoring young people.
Yes.
And the Lord has provided a way to develop the next generation so that then they can bring their talent and skills and abilities in the arena we are in. We are not wait to exit so that we bring them on board. The days we used to say the youth are for tomorrow are gone. They are here, so they need to take their space. But the other thing I think we need to learn ourselves is how we can get some of these solutions through technology, because that's the new thing of our century. Technology has brought a lot of solutions on the table. And just giving the youth that mandate to be able to bring on board those solutions using technology by embracing whatever facets of the technology. For instance, with this air growing of the trees, we intend to really go on all the social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, so that when you plant your 200 trees, Mudibo would like you to take a picture and have it there and download it so that we can see.
Yeah.
And then we can map out so that we know these millions that we have planted. We can actually tag them on an app and then link them to Jazamiti, the government app.
Yeah.
So that as we are counting the billions, we will be saying actually
play these parts.
Yes, so technology is a big thing in the days we live, and I think we need to embrace it. And then we pray for God's will and wisdom to reign on our leaders, so that then they will show us the direction. In the Old Testament, whenever leaders followed God,
Yeah.
the country prospered.
That's right.
Whenever they didn't, then they suffered, all of them, both the leaders and the led. So may the Lord just help the leaders so that they can hear the voice of God on anything, on everything, in all sectors of our economy.
There's something you've said as I pass the opportunity now to Grace.
Yes.
We are hearing Mother Nature grumbling and complaining and aching with all the earthquakes, the rains, the heat waves, the fires, the floods. But in all this noise, are we listening to the voice of God?
Maybe that is also the voice of God, the earthquakes, and to say that I am disappointed in how things have been going on, and I want you to do something, because God speaks to us in many ways, honestly, and I think God's heart is grieved because He first created the environment, then He put man in it to care and to tend to it. But because of the wicked state of the heart of man, there has been so much selfishness, but then we don't realize that, God is so good and so loving. We don't see that our selfishness is damaging us. And it's again grieving God's heart because He's saying, you people are going to be hungry. You people are going to die when you cut down those trees. Where will you get fruits to eat? And interestingly, some of these lifestyle diseases can be sorted out by healthy eating, like just eating fruits. Some diseases like even cancer, just when you just change your diet and you do a healthy living. When you go to a forest, when you go to Karura forest, when you're stressed, when you live there, you will some fresh air will relieve your mind. So I wish we are able to see God's heart and take responsibility. Taking care of God's creation actually brings glory to God. And this scripture, you shall know them by their fruits. So if we are not taking care of God's creation, are we really children of God? Yes.
Wow, and that coming from an accountant with passion for environment.
Yes.
Interesting. When do you find the time to do your job description?
Interestingly, Mudibo, I'm actually a mathematics and geography teacher. So this is something that I'm very passionate. And I'm also a practicing accountant and a climate change advocate. Yes.
And indeed, as we are almost now winding up, show up. What are the next steps? What do we see? Paint a picture for us. In 1 year's time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time down the road, with what it is that we're doing now, what do we hope to see in the future?
We'll start from Monday.
Yes.
From Monday, we hope that everyone will show up for the tree planting, for the tree growing. For the tree planting, we'll start with the planting. But then after that day, we need to take the responsibility to care and to nurture that tree as we continue to grow more trees. And we hope in the future that our climate will be modified. We'll have more food. I see China is really interested in our avocado exports. We need to think about that. Why is these people? So we need again to look at our food in our country as we are growing. If we are able to grow more fruit trees, I think that will really work well for our country. And just have that habit. I think it will change our environment and the climate in our country, and probably other countries can learn from us as a nation.
Yeah, so just to add on, the 15 billion are not being planted just this year. It's a long-term project.
Yeah.
And so is the EWA climate action. It's a futuristic, starting from where we are, going into the future. And our strategy says that every rain season, we are now in the short rains, April will be the long rains. Every rain season, our idea and our effort is to plant 10 million trees. So this season, we ought to actually plant 10 million. And since we are 6 million, it's really 1 tree a person.
Literally, you can.
I mean, it's
will
really,
exceed
yeah,
even.
we can do one come morning, you do your 2 trees, and we are done. So then we hope that every rainy season we'll be planting 6 million, then April 6 million, and so on and so forth, until we populate as many trees as we can to build into the 15 billion. The second thing is restoring life, as she has said. EWA does not only stand for planting and growing of the trees. We want to bring the woman into full circle in terms of the health, in terms of education, in terms of the food, in terms of all those issues that curtail their growth and that, sort of have become barriers and the norms and the cultural norms that make it difficult for the woman to progress. So EWA then will progress into the next project and embrace and put it together so that in years to come, when we come here, Mudibo, we'll be looking at our strategic plan and we'll be telling you we have ticked that box with that with the concept, yes.
Indeed. I look forward to resting in that forest. That is EWA. I look forward to going under that shade of the tree called Grace.
Yes.
And we look forward to visiting you where you are because you stood up and you made a difference. You planted a tree and you nurtured it to growth. Well, time is up. This has been The Leader, courtesy of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya and Catalyst on Hope Media. We're glad and we thank you for the privilege of your time and on behalf of our esteemed climate action champions.
Yes.
Tunasema kwaheri. See you on 13th. Plant a tree.
Thank you.
Goodbye. God bless.
Thank you.